Welcome to Cookbook. This month we have novelist, former reporter, Thurber House, PR guru Robin Yocum joining us to talk about his new book, A Brilliant Death, and to explain sort of what's going on with Thurber House and sort of how he came to be the novelist he is now. So he's also going to be teaching us how to make jambalaya, which is something that I say differently every single time. But it sounds delicious. It sounds like it's got all the different proteins and veggies and spices and things in it. So it should be something good to know how to make for a bunch of people, like paella or something like that. So I appreciate you joining us, and welcome to Cookbook. Robin Yocum here today, and he is going to teach us how to make jambalaya. Or do you prefer jambalaya? Is it a mood?
Tomato.
If the wine comes before, it's jambalaya.
Exactly.
All right. So what all do we need to have at the ready for this?
Well, so what we've done is I prepared before we got here the chicken and the sausage.
Okay.
Okay. And it calls for 2 cups of chicken. I'm a carnivore, so there's probably 3.5 cups in this. This is ready to go. I also boiled up the shrimp so that we don't have to mess with that. So the first thing we're going to want to do is start sauteing the vegetables.
Okay.
So if we can get that going. Put a little olive oil in the pan there. And we have onions and celery. Okay. Which is a negative calorie food, you know. That's important. You get a little older.
To counteract the extra cup of chicken.
Exactly. And the red peppers.
Excellent.
This is usually, when Melissa and I make this is usually my job. I cut the celery and she says, "Okay, now get out of the kitchen."
Okay.
So we're gonna put that on kind of a medium heat and let that just soften up, brown up a little bit.
Sure. So how long have you been making this recipe of jambalaya?
Oh, well, about 9 years.
Okay.
About 9 years.
And you got it off of Gypsy Woman?
I got it, I think Troy from Swamp People show. I think that's where it came from. It's actually Melissa's, my fiance, and that's her recipe. So
great.
Yeah. So we're gonna let that heat up for a while.
Okay.
In the meantime, we can start
adding things in here.
We can start throwing things. We need 2 cups of the chicken broth.
Okay.
So.
See, that's not as bad as when I spilled that whole thing of sugar.
Well, not here.
We forgot about the sugar on one of these, and then very quickly tried this.
Just a little bit more, but we don't want to go over 2 cups. Okay. We want to try to keep it.
Otherwise, it becomes too soupy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
That works for me. That works for me.
Put that in here.
You know, when I'm making this with Melissa, she's just throwing everything in. You know,
she just knows.
She knows. She instinctively knows.
And you know that you can screw it up.
Exactly. So that's why I follow what she tells me to do.
Sure.
To speed. Now we got some tomatoes.
Okay.
Chunky because I like something with a little
zesty chili.
Zesty. And we've got our diced tomatoes and chilies here, which are packed in water, so I'm going to drain those.
Okay. So how many people can this feed?
This will feed a small army. This is like, I think 8 to 10, she said. So we do it a lot of times for family get-togethers and.
See, now I do the same thing with paella, except paella seems like it's much more trouble than it's worth.
Than it's worth. Okay, so we're going to add those
to the pot?
Into the pot.
Okay.
Everything goes in.
Sure. And what else?
You can stir that up. Now we've got. I mistakenly called it Bayou sauce this morning and got my hand slapped. It's Cajun.
Okay.
A Cajun spice.
What's the difference between Cajun and Bayou sauce?
There is none, except I just, I just screwed it up. That's all. And we got some oregano, some thyme.
Oregano and thyme. Is there anything else in there?
There might be something else. I'd have to actually look. She, bless her heart.
She pre-mixed it.
She pre-mixed it for me. She's trying to make sure that I don't embarrass myself here, so I don't screw that up.
No, we're okay on the show if I spill the sugar, but we'll edit it if you do something.
Very good, very good. I come from a long line of Hungarians, and Melissa, my favorite dish in the world is stuffed cabbage.
Ooh, okay. With the ground meat.
The ground, yes. And Melissa learned that from my 94-year-old grandmother. Melissa knew I liked cabbage rolls, so she went over to get.
That would be the person to get it from.
Yeah, to get it from. So, and my grandmother, bless her heart, she died a few years ago at age 96, and she was teaching Melissa how to make cabbage rolls.
Sure.
And so, you boil the cabbage leaf, and my grandmother said, now, maybe I better not, but she said, you hold that cabbage leaf, and she said, kind of firm. And you can imagine what she used for an example. My 94-year-old grandmother. And Melissa, turning all red and just,
it's good.
Hadn't been part of the family here. And I said, well, welcome aboard.
Well played by Grandma.
Exactly. We've got 2 garlic cloves here.
Okay. Is that going to go on the veggies?
That will go. We'll dice that up and put it in the broth.
Okay.
And those need to be peeled. So if you want to do that, have you done that? I got a lesson in that.
We've got a press. If you want.
I have the press.
Okay.
But we want to peel that.
Just the outer layer?
Yeah, cut that top off here.
See, I'm going to learn something.
Okay,
yeah. Okay.
And you peel that back.
Just the outside, like the skin of an onion?
Yes.
Okay. So I need to cut that end off?
We'll snip that off a little bit. And actually, the other end. See the...
I got to get it in the hole. Okay. Okay.
Okay, now go ahead and peel that off. Peel that down.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Now we go into the press.
Sure. And it goes in here.
Yep. Okay. Peel that off.
Can we do another one?
Yep, do one more. Now, you got to take this out, otherwise
it'll get in the way of it.
Yeah.
Sure.
This too I learned.
I'm glad you learned so many things so that I can learn
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm going to stir that out. Just cut up the others.
It's already starting to smell good.
It does. It's a great recipe, and it is time consuming. So we do get out the wine,
Sure.
Melissa and I spend a lot. Melissa is a real estate agent.
Okay.
And I got my PR marketing business.
Sure.
That helps. That helps me support my writing.
Sure.
And so I travel quite a bit. I'm on the road. I was in New York all last week, and I'll be in Detroit all this week. So dinner time, preparing the dinner a lot of times is our time to spend together.
It becomes an event.
Yes.
Nice. Nice.
So she sent along a lemon.
Okay.
And she is big on lemon. When we boiled the shrimp, we also cut up lemon.
Sure.
Put it in. Takes a little of the
almost like a low country boil.
Yeah. Okay. Takes a little of the odor out.
Mm-hmm.
And also uses it to get rid of the garlic smell.
Okay.
When you're washing your hands.
Sure.
So
that makes sense.
There you go.
All right. So we've got all the things in the pot. We got the veggies going.
Veggies are going, and we can add let's put the sausage in.
Okay.
And saute that up a little bit with the veggies. With the veggies.
Okay. Now, why do you put it in with the veggies? Just to season it a little bit
just
more?
Just brown it up a little bit.
Okay.
And, we use spicy sausage. I like a little kick.
Sure.
Kick with mine. And also with with the Cajun sauce.
Sure. Okay. And where do we add? Which meat is next?
Now, once we add this, we're gonna want to scoop this out.
Okay.
So we don't dump the olive oil in with the
So let it brown a little bit.
Brown just a little bit.
Okay. And then we're going to use this pan for the other meat?
No, actually, well, because we all, we would have cooked the meat ahead of time.
Okay.
Anyway, so we would be done, do the chicken, and then we shred it. She does the sausage ahead of time.
Okay.
And then adds everything. Like I said, you know, with me it's more of a process. She's out there, she's just drinking the wine and mixing it up.
She's a veteran.
It's all good. She is a veteran. She is. And, you know, I used to actually cook quite a bit. And Melissa and I got together, and I noticed less and less I was being allowed into the kitchen. You know, she just kept moving me.
I assume this was a good thing.
She's better. She is much better at it than me. I will readily admit that. And actually, she could have just moved me out altogether right on the go.
Sure.
She wouldn't have gotten any argument with me, from me. But she started very gently just pushing me out.
Sure.
Pretty soon, I used to do all the grilling.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't do that anymore. I'm not allowed to do that either. You know.
See, I get to go to the breakfasts in my house. Like everyone's getting ready for school. My wife's getting ready for school. I'm getting ready, and I'll cook all the breakfasts. But if it comes to like a real dinner and people are coming over, it's
yes.
If she didn't want to stay in bed that extra half hour, then I think she would be good.
Now we can go ahead and put the chicken in.
In this?
Yeah, and you know we can start that. Let's put a fire under that. And what we want to do, Darren, is we want to bring that once we do a slow boil.
Okay.
Just a slow boil.
And then once we get there, back off the heat, or
well, we want to keep it just a small. She called that a slow boil. Let's call it. Came out in a big chunk.
Yeah, that's all right.
Like I said, this is great as far as when you're feeding a lot of people.
Sure.
And I like, Castle, she makes a dish also called salsa chicken.
And what all goes into that?
Yeah, that's why, you know what, I asked her before I left. I said, what if you asked me what's in salsa chicken? And there's cheese and spices. And
so it's more than salsa and chicken?
Exactly, yeah. And a salsa, we make our own salsa every year.
Right.
Melissa has a big garden. And we use our homemade salsa. And,
wow.
Salsa and apple butter. Those are two things. Should have brought some of the apple butter. So we are probably done with this.
Okay.
So we can start scooping that out, dishing that out, and put it into the pan.
And then we're going to use this pan again.
No, we're done with the pan.
Done with the pan? Okay.
We're done. Everything, all the rest of the magic happens over here now.
Sure.
But we do make a lot of cabbage rolls, a lot of ethnic.
Sounds good.
Hungarian.
Well, I'm glad your grandmother gave up the secret.
Yeah, she did give up. She gave it up. She was.
And was only slightly profane when she did so.
Only slightly. Only slightly.
It's always a joy when you hear your grandmother swear for the first time.
Yeah. I walked over one day. She's 94 years old, and she said, "Actually, I got the worst headache." I said, "Why? What's going on?" She said, "Well, I'm trying to quit smoking." I said, "You're 94 years old. Why are you trying to quit smoking?" "Well, the doctor said, get here." Went and bought her cigarettes. I said, "Come on. If it hasn't got you by age 94, it's not going to get you."
I had a great grandfather that for Christmas every year he would get whiskey, chocolates, and OSU gear.
Yeah,
That's
there you go.
Every year.
That's every time I went south. I got her a couple cartons of cigarettes.
There you go.
So now that we got that going.
Okay. This already looks good. What do we?
I tell you what, we are going to add a little bit of. I'm going to add another cup of chicken broth.
Okay.
Because that looks a little light. It will be okay. And besides that, I told you 2 cups earlier, and I lied. I misread the recipe. It's supposed to be 3. That looks better.
You could have played that off.
I could have.
Honest. It's good.
I could have said it was Melissa's fault, but she'll be watching this, and then
that's true.
You know. So we're going to add now. We're going to add the rice. Now, the original recipe called for white rice.
Okay.
But we use brown.
A little healthier, right?
A little healthier.
Sure.
And we're just going to let that simmer in there.
Okay.
So go ahead and
stir it all together.
Stir that all together.
Okay. So is this shrimp going to be the last thing that we sort of...
We won't put the shrimp in because we don't want it to get mushy.
Okay.
So we're going to not put that in until it's just about done.
Sure. Till we get to that. How long do you near
This
boil?
is about 20 minutes.
Okay.
About 20 minutes once we get it warmed.
Okay. So we're going to let this get to the near boil. We're going to let it cook up, and we'll add the shrimp so we can show you folks the finished product.
The bay leaf.
Oh.
Forgot the bay leaf.
Yes, sir.
Now somebody...
If you go home with the bay leaf, you'll get...
Well, if you serve someone the bay leaf, you tell them in some cultures it's considered good luck.
Okay.
That's total baloney. But if you happen to serve it to them, you know.
And it sounds good at dinner.
It sounds good at dinner,
Yeah.
yes.
So
You're going to have good luck.
You're making someone's day.
Exactly.
There you go. I like
So
it.
this will start to boil down.
Okay.
Now, if we put a, we'll want to put a lid on it.
Okay.
I'll tell you what we're going to do is, Melissa, she'll get mad at me. So let's add just a little bit more. There we go.
See, just as she would, without,
Just
without measuring.
without even measuring, she
I
just
feel-
did it. There we go.
Right. An equal turn with the bottle. It just, you know.
Exactly.
There you go. All right, we're going to let this cook, and then we'll get to sit down with Robin and talk about his new book, talk about the reporting he did, all his work with Thurber House, and we'll try to get some PR advice maybe if we've got time. You never know. He's a professional. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Has taught us how to make some incredibly gorgeous and wafting deliciousness jambalaya here. And so what we'll have when he leaves, I will grab the recipe for him and I'll throw up online so you can try to make it as well. But this looks like we are going to get our Uber intern Adam very fat with this. It's going to be good. It's good for him. He's lovable anyway. It'll be okay. But after the jambalaya, I wanted to ask you first about the new book that you wrote.
Right, new book.
It just came out 2 days ago? Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, April 5th, A Brilliant Death. It is my first true mystery.
Okay.
And it centers in the little town of Brilliant, Ohio, where I grew up.
Sure.
Real life place. And it involves two boys. And the one, the narrator is older now. He's telling the story. He can finally, some things have happened. He can finally reveal what happened. And it involves the death of a young woman who drowns or disappears in the Ohio River.
Okay.
And it's a she sort of becomes the Amelia Earhart of this little town because they never find the body. So no one's ever really sure if she drowned.
And there are lots of stories about her on there.
Exactly.
Sure.
And rumors. So when her son, who's an infant, when she disappears, gets to be about 15, he recruits his buddy Mitch, who's telling the story, to help him find out about his mom. He just wants to know about her. What was she like? What she looked like? He's never even seen a photo of her.
Okay.
Because the dad, she was on the boat with her lover when the accident occurred. So the dad scours all memory of her from the house.
Sure.
So this kid's 15 years old. He's never even seen a photo of his mother. So they launch into an exploratory. They call it Project Amanda for Amanda Barron, and it eventually morphs into a murder investigation.
Okay. Does that mean they find the body, or they find a real?
I can't tell you that, Darren. But it morphs. They do find out what I will tell you. They finally figure out what happened that night.
Okay.
Back in 1953.
Sure. And then that sort of spearheads their adventure.
Right. That's the goal they're shooting for. They kind of find that out. They learn it toward the end of the book, and now they have this information. What are they going to do with it?
Okay.
So it's part mystery. A lot of the critics, the reviews have called part mystery, part coming of age.
Sure.
So
well, the two almost men sort of growing up a little bit through the process.
Right, and by the time they're 18, by the time the book ends.
Okay.
It takes place over about a 4-year period, 3.5, 4-year period.
Okay.
So
what, you're from Brilliant, Ohio.
I'm from Brilliant.
What did you take from being there and put it in the book? Just the landscape?
The landscape,
sort of
and I took some
archetypal people that you sort of came across? Sure.
Yeah. I grew up, and I took some liberties with the topography of Brilliant, but most people will recognize that I tried to use some of the actual places and landmarks from when I was a kid. But I grew up in the Ohio River Valley. I was born in '55, so late 50s, 60s, early to mid 70s. I was growing up. And it was a great time down in the valley. I mean, the steel mills were booming, coal mines were booming. You know, it was a lot of industry, a lot of jobs.
10 or 15 years before things went bad.
It was about my senior year in high school. It was just sort of the tip of when things were really starting to go south. The economy, the steel mills were antiquated. The coal mines were having a lot of problems. The EPA was, you know, cracking down on them for the high sulfur coal. There were a lot of things going on, and once those dominoes tipped, it really went in a hurry.
Sure.
But the area when I grew up, Saturday, Sunday morning, sometimes it was hard to get an English-speaking radio station because all the ethnic groups would buy a half an hour of time to read newspapers in the native tongue or read newspapers from home. Okay. So you know, the Italian club would take it for a half hour, and then the Czechs or the Germans, Hungarians, whatever. Right. So there were still a lot of first generation immigrants in the area.
And it started in those industries, and now
absolutely, yeah, and very blue collar, and just a great place to grow up. You know, it was filthy dirty. You know, I mean, a lot of pollution, but the river was horrible. But you know, I think it makes a great backdrop for the stories. Right. You know, that's when the mob was still running. You know, running the numbers and the prostitution and Steubenville, and it was a pretty wild place.
That sounds like it. Well, and I always think when I think of the Ohio Valley and things like that, and you brought up Martin's Ferry earlier, I always think of that great poem, Autumn in Martin's Ferry.
Autumn in Martin's Ferry.
With the beautiful bodies crashing together and the Polish people in the stands watching it.
Which I think he calls Polacks. Polacks, football was very, very important. The schools in those areas it was the social hub of all those little communities. Sure. You know, Friday nights or Saturday afternoons, I mean, everybody in town was at the ball game, and you knew everybody, and it was a very important social event.
Sort of the confluence of all those different sort of groups coming together to support. I mean, that had to be great sort of morale building.
Oh, it was. It was great, and you know, a lot of the towns had, you know, particular ethnic conclaves. Sure. You know, that had settled in one area because they worked on the railroads, or and you know, my great grandfather came in from Hungary. Okay. And they sold the family ox to get him over here. Okay. He settled down in the High River Valley, and then as he made money, he would send for the next brother. Sure. And then the next brother and the next brother. Well, then
and they all end up living.
They grab their neighbor, and they all live in the same area. Okay. So, you know, security in numbers. And
now, what part of that from sort of your upbringing made it into the book? Or is this generationally too far, too advanced to sort of include that?
Yeah, I mean, there's bits and pieces of it.
Okay. Well, it still remains, I imagine, to some extent.
To some extent. Sure. You know, the valley has really been decimated. You know, they lost, I think, 60,000 steel mill jobs alone. Right. Yeah, and that doesn't include the companies that located there because they needed the steel.
They were sustained
by or you know, supplying. Right. And so it's really just a sad state of affairs right now. Sure. But you know, it's a snapshot in time. These kids are growing up in that era. My next book will be also set down in Steubenville, but you know, be a little bit further down the road, little later in time. And
is that a continuation of this?
It's not. There are, but it's somewhat related. The main characters are cousins. Okay. I've gotten 3 books that will be coming out. One next year, one the year after, and the main characters are all cousins. That's kind of the link. The link to it. But the other one, the one's coming out, is much different than this. And in most of my books, I have at least one character who's trying to do the right thing. You know, a protagonist that's, you know, morally conflicted or trying to do the right thing.
Sure. There's always one bright voice.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. The next book, the book that follows this, nobody's trying to do the right thing. Everybody's just looking out for.
Well, those can be fun.
For number one,
sure.
and it is. It's a
especially when everyone's number one interest diverts and clashes.
Exactly. Sure. That's it. And it's written from a. It's a everyone. There's 5 characters taking turns telling the story.
Okay.
So you're watching
Faulkner-esque.
the same event from different perspectives.
Sure. Okay. So obviously where you came from is feeding a lot into this, and then obviously with you being a crime reporter for so long, it lends itself into the death and the discovery and the mystery
right. and that really helps from the perspective that I understand how, I was a crime reporter at the Columbus Dispatch for years, and I did investigative work, which you still end up working.
Building stories.
With the police,
right?
Together,
yeah.
And I understand the judicial process and how the police work and operate. And
sure.
Some of the things they do, good or bad, that end up. So it does help from that perspective, sure. Understanding.
There's some authentic sort of tangents it can take, that if you leave out that part of the process, then you're sort of leaving out some of the conflict.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting because I always said it that when I was covering the police beat, criminal stupidity is what ends up solving most crimes. It's not. When you watch Columbo or something on TV and they're piecing together the Sherlock Holmes type,
Sure. It's not normally that different.
No, it usually doesn't work that way.
Normally there are fingerprints on the gun.
Right. Or someone's standing there holding the gun, or
sure.
or they can't keep their mouth shut.
Right.
Because they're not the brightest people in the world. That's why they're out robbing banks or
sure.
robbing.
Or guilt,
or
trying to,
bragging.
Sure.
Bragging. Now that the internet, there was a bank robbery down in south of Columbus in Asheville, I think last year sometime. And of course, they got away and got home, and the first thing they do is post pictures on Facebook with all their money, and the cops they monitor the social media because people are stupid. They want to brag about it.
Yeah. Or all of a sudden, someone who's really poor has an extra $100,000.
Exactly. Or a lot of times, what will happen is they'll tell a girlfriend, and then the girlfriend becomes not their girlfriend, and
or girlfriend tells mom doesn't want it,
or
never liked the guy.
Or a girlfriend gets busted for something. She says, "Well, I know, she can trade up."
Okay.
So it's fun. To understand those dynamics.
And you've seen sort of all those angles play out.
Absolutely.
Sort of
in the real life.
How it worked, maybe how it should work.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
So is there a police presence?
There is a disgraced detective in this.
Okay.
Who begins to investigate, unbeknownst to the main characters, the police officer begins to investigate her death. Early on.
Okay.
Later he goes to prison for falsifying evidence in criminal cases.
But a different case.
Different cases.
Okay, sure.
So when the boys start looking into this, they find an old newspaper clipping that said this guy was looking into it, but by now he's out of prison. And they go strike up I won't call it a friendship, but a relationship with him.
Sure.
And even though he is disgraced, they come to at some point think he might have been onto something.
Sure.
So yeah, there are, and they end up at the sheriff's office and looking for old reports and search warrants, I think. And so yeah, there's a law enforcement element there.
Sure. Which I imagine you made seem incredibly authentic with your experience.
I would hope so.
Okay.
I would hope.
With that just I always like in movies and things like that, where it's the disgraced cop who's actually the good guy who's just trying to get things done, and now he drinks a little too much, but he's really on the side of the angels, sort of thing. What was that?
Yeah, this guy really screwed up. He when he screwed it up,
he screwed up.
He really screwed it up. Yeah.
All right. So you've got this book that just came out. You've got another coming out in a year.
Probably about April, about another year, in April of 17.
And this is the one where everything goes wrong.
Everything goes. It's just total chaos.
Okay.
Now I will tell you, and we were talking a little earlier, you know, this was actually something I had written years ago, and I rewrote it at my agent's urging.
Sure.
So we had the other two books, and well, the Duke and Earl, we'll call them.
Sure.
And the Duke was my favorite. It has always been one of my favorite books, and I was working on a rewrite, and my editor calls me and says, you know, this Earl, I really like this Earl. He said, I started reading it, and I couldn't put it down. Let's do that one next. And I said, well, that's great. I love that one too. But I couldn't even remember what it was really about. When he said,
you had to go back and read it.
Yeah, I had to go back. And
oh yeah, I love that part too.
I love that part too, and I had to go back and give it a rewrite. But it's a very fast moving. So then, yeah, I've got another one in the works right now, and I'll be working on a rewrite of the one for 2018.
Okay.
And just trying to get things in a pipeline and ready to go.
Right.
And
it's good because otherwise you're not busy at all in your life.
Right. Yeah. I've got. I've been very busy.
Sure.
I've got the PR marketing consulting business. After I left the newspaper, I did 10 years of corporate PR.
Okay.
I was at Bank One when my division moved to Chicago, and I said, "Well, I'm not moving to Chicago."
Sure.
And they said, "Well, if you're not moving to Chicago, we really don't need you here." So that was.
And then you started your own firm.
I did.
Okay.
And I didn't intend to. They let me go August 31st of 2001, and 11 days later, the world changes, and nobody was hiring. So I thought, well, my son was in college and my daughter was knocking on the door. I better figure out a way to make some money.
Sure.
And I started my own PR consulting business. So, which I had almost 15 years.
Well, you said New York last week and Chicago,
Detroit.
Detroit's next week. So yeah, it's gone well.
It's gone well. It's gone very well. And I didn't think I wanted to run my own business, but now I find it would be very difficult to go back to a full-time gig. Because it gives me time to write. I have some freedom of how many clients I want to take on, how much work I want to do, and it frees up time to write, which is my passion, what I really like doing. So.
And are the kids through college now?
Everyone's through college.
See?
Everyone's through school and virtually, financially independent. That's a little bit of a gag.
You know what?
They're doing really well.
My mom drops off a thing of diapers now and again. It's nice.
Exactly.
Just to help out a little bit.
It is. But yeah, they're doing well, and I also have a house flipping business. Buddy of mine and I started flipping houses about 10 years ago, and that has gone really well. And we actually have a website called Flipasaurus.
That's good.
Flipasaurus.com, and it's a blog. Sure. And so I blog on there, and we help people who are interested in, getting out there and trying to flip houses.
And then you also do work with Thurber House.
And Thurber House is actually part of my PR marketing.
Okay.
They're one of my clients.
Sure.
So beginning January 1st of this year, I became the literary advisor for Thurber House.
Right.
And I'm overseeing the Thurber Prize for American Humor.
Which is a big deal.
Which is a huge prize we will award later this year. We've got about 60 entries. It's coming out, so we're excited about that. I do the fall and spring evenings with authors, and we bring 6-7 authors to town, usually around one of a new book that's coming out, and when they're on tour, try to get them down. They're great events. We hold them at the Columbus Museum of Art, which is right near Thurber House.
Sure.
And for anybody who's out there who doesn't know, we are located in James Thurber, humorist James Thurber's boyhood home.
Right.
And he wrote a famous short story called The Night the Ghost Got In. And that's
about
the house. That's that house where the ghost got in, 77 Jefferson Street in Columbus. And it is just a great little nonprofit.
It's a great institution. All the work to do with kids. And,
a lot with kids. And I am really tickled to be their literary advisor. So that's actually why I was in New York last week. I was meeting with publicists
Okay.
And trying to line up, finish up the fall evenings with authors and start on next spring figuring out who we're going to bring.
And reading 60 books at the same time.
And 60 books. Doing a lot of I'm doing a lot of Audible right now too.
Sure.
But we do that. We also do a summer picnic series.
Right.
And which is primarily Ohio authors.
I think Maggie did it.
I think Maggie did do it.
Right.
And we were going to do some more poetry.
Cool.
Hopefully here in the near future. Ann Covell, who is the assistant director, loves poetry and is sort of driving that train. So
great.
We'll be doing some of that, and we have a writer in residence program, and that has I don't want to say it's I backburnered it, but I'm trying to get through the prize, and then we will start working on next year and trying to elevate the awareness of that too, because it's a good program, and the writer in residence gets to stay in the apartment on the third floor.
Oh, really?
We have a 2-bedroom apartment.
Very nice.
So it's very nice.
Okay.
It's very.
What's the timing for the prize? Like, when does that get announced?
That will be in September.
Okay.
In September. In New York at Caroline's Comedy Club.
Wow.
So we will we'll start the judging. I have a committee.
Okay.
And we'll start going through the books, and got some just great books, and anxious to dive into that a little bit more.
Well, that sounds like the fun part.
It is the fun part.
Sure.
It is very time consuming.
Right.
You got to read, and then we will all get together, and then we have to wrestle over, try and narrow it down to some finalists.
Sure.
And then we have 3, professional writers who will be the final.
They do the judging.
They'll do the judging.
Okay. Great. Well, between Thurber House, between a new book, between your business and your other business, and your writing, I'm impressed that you made it over.
Oh, no, yeah, this is good. This is good. It's for years I was a reporter, and I loved that job. When I left the paper, that was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made in my life. But I was waffling between nonfiction or fiction. And I'd written a couple true crime books. But I always wanted to write fiction because as a reporter, you're always writing about other people's deeds, misdeeds, if you're the police reporter.
Sure. But
you're writing about other people's accomplishments. And I really wanted to create something that was uniquely mine. Start with a blank sheet of paper, like a painter, I guess. Something that my words, my ideas, that start with nothing and end up with a book, a story, and that's what I think motivated me toward writing fiction.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I try to do it every day. Try to do something every day.
Right.
And stay after it, and hopefully,
sure.
One of these really, really pops someday. The reviews for this.
Well, it's a beautiful book, so hopefully this is
nice job.
Yeah. And both Robin and I in a couple weeks will be at the Ohio Book Festival. So everyone should come out and get to meet Robin and buy his book, which I'm now really sort of excited to get and see what happened with the body in the river.
April 23rd.
April 23rd.
At the Sheridan.
Yeah, at the Sheridan downtown Columbus. There'll be, I think it opens up at 9 a.m. There's a lot of stuff for kids.
Readings.
Yep. Panels, depending on what your interest is. And you can spend all your money there, which is going to happen.
We encourage.
Which we encourage. I think last year people just went around, like all the posts, we bought everyone's books and we just walked out, but it was good. But it really is a lot of fun, kids-wise, author-wise.
Yeah, it's a good event.
It's a lot of fun. So if you want to come, you can buy this online, I'm sure.
You can buy it Amazon, Barnes & Noble,
right?
half-price books.
So if you can't make it to Ohio and meet Robin himself, you can buy it that way and just track him down in any of the cities that he's visiting, and he'll sign it for you.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for coming over.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It'll be fun to hang out in a couple weeks.
Very good. Looking forward to it.
So that's our cookbook for this month, and we will see you next month for C.W. Everett. Talk to Robin about his new book and get to learn how to make jambalaya. We've got coming up next C.W. Everett, who's a big figure in the Columbus poetry scene. She works with Pudding House Press. and the Columbus Poetry Forum. She's one of my favorite people in the Columbus poetry scene, so it'll be great to get to sit down and talk to her. And then we have poet David Winter coming up the month after that. So we've got the next few months lined up. In terms of sundress, obviously last month we had the Best of the Neck come out, which was a big deal. We've got new titles coming out. I know right now they're running a 2 for $20 sale on the website if you want to check that out. I think everyone's still recovering from AWP and everything that went down in LA. So check out the website for the sales on the books. We'll be back next month with C.W. Everett and David Winter the month after that. Thank you for joining us.